What's up, guys? I recently helped this supplement brand scale to around 2 grand a day. This was actually 2 days ago. And today I want to actually break down the exact creative strategy, the exact approach that we are working on right now. And actually, have been working on ever since he launched. So I went with him through before he launched until now. And, this has been running for around a month. So it's an insane project, right? And by the way, as he said here, it's all subscription revenue, all reoccurring revenue, which is the greatest part because the margins are absolutely wild. And so I want to break down how we got to this point because he's actually ridiculously profitable even up front without even considering that all these people are going to be charged again and again and again. Okay, so there's 4 different things, key things that you need to include into your ads, basically that kind of no guru is really talking about. And I want to break them down because these have helped me personally with my brand. These have helped him. This has helped hundreds of others that I've been working with, and I just want to break it down and give it to you guys. Okay, first thing is the hook, and the hook can be broken down into 3 different parts, and the content hook, visual hook, and audio hook. Okay, now why this is important and what you do with this piece of information is actually that you from now on should test all these 3 different things isolated individually. What does that mean? Right? This means that from now on, what I want you to do is whenever you test something, which is like, okay, what is the highest impact test that I can do below my product, below my avatar, below my angle? It's always the hook itself, okay? And the hook is really broken down into these 3 parts. And so, for example, for the content hook, what I always do is a hook test, right? If you've been following my channel, you know what that is. Essentially, a hook test is basically a test full of just image ads, blank image ads, white background, just text on it, nothing else, okay? Just text on a white picture, and you do like 30, 40, 50 of those. By the way, they do this at scale every once in a while. Every time that you want to honestly introduce new ads, doesn't matter if it's a new angle, same angle, into your ad account. And so what that's going to do is it's going to massively increase your hit rates on your actual creatives that you test after that. And speaking of those, what you're going to do is basically isolatedly test the visual hook. So once you have a content hook, maybe an audio hook that you want to go with, you're going to actually test the exact same ad with 10, 20 different visual hooks. By the way, same thing for audio, right? Audio hooks matter a lot, and no one really talks about this. A lot of people only have music or only a UGC voice. But if you, for example, do VSLs and actually see the most successful VSLs right now, what they all do is basically they have some type of bone cracking sound if it's a pain product, or some type of weird sound effect, a scream or something, right? Just in order to get the hook rate up. Because these 3 things are going to determine the performance of your top of funnel ads. The top of funnel ads that you have, literally everything that determines how many people you get into the top of funnel is your hook on your top of funnel ads. If your hook rate is as high as possible, you get as many people as possible into your funnel, and then everything else is going to perform significantly better. The length of your ad does not really matter as much as your hook, and the reason why is because from that second on, as you get people in the hook, it's just conversion. It's just working with the attention that you grabbed, and it's going to get less and less and less and less. So obviously, what's going to determine your entire funnel are these 3 things. Okay, so if there's one thing that you focus on, it doesn't matter if your ad is 10 seconds long or 10 minutes long or 30 minutes long, it's all going to depend on these 3 different things. And the performance, you will realize, is not that different if you make your ad 10 minutes long or 30 minutes long. It doesn't matter. These 3 things will determine your success of the ad 100% every single time. Everything that comes after that is just for the conversion part and not actually in order to get more people into the top of funnel. Okay, that's number 1. Okay, keep in mind the hook is the most important part. Now, the second thing that I want to tell you guys about is that every ad that you should make, or every ad actually that I looked at in my personal variable sheet and in every variable sheet I've ever looked at, is all the best ads had some type of pattern interrupt. So you got to imagine this, right? If you run ads on paid socials like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever, what's going to happen is people don't want to see ads. People are not intent-based like on Google, right? People do not care about you, about their problem in that moment of scrolling. So every single time that they come across your ad or any ad, it interrupts their doom scrolling, right? So they are automatically pissed off. This is what you can imagine. They will automatically be mad and they don't want to actually watch ads. So what you have to do in order to not just be the next guy that they just scroll past or just comment, nice try, Diddy, into the comments in your ads, what you got to actually do instead is try to reverse it and try to interrupt them and try to surprise them with something that they've never seen before. Think of any good ads that you personally have watched. They all started super weird, right? Maybe it was someone standing in a weird type of way. Maybe it was a weird camera angle or perspective. Maybe it was a lot of motion, a movement. Maybe it was a lot of a weird reaction, a weird sound effect. Maybe it was just a weird topic or something weird that they said, right? It doesn't matter what it is. A pattern interrupt is always going to be the most powerful thing, most powerful variable, direct response variable in your ads. This is going to, once again, increase the top of funnel, right? Increase the amount of people that you get into your funnel. And overall, just increase the performance by far, right? Because this actually grabs attention. If you say something weird, you may not have heard this before in terms of psychology. This is used every single time that maybe someone's crying or something. Maybe you've heard of that before. It actually, psychiatrists use this a lot when someone's crying or someone is telling something, and they obviously are in this crying mode. And whenever you try to tell them, to comfort them, it's not going to really help because they're not actually listening. However, if they're crying and they're in their crying mode and then you say something totally weird, then they'll be like, huh? And then they'll listen, right? You grab their attention when they're doing something else, always with a pattern interrupt, okay? Really, really important to do this in marketing because this is just going to increase your performance in your ads that you make, in your ads that you run. And it doesn't matter what niche you're in. You can do this in every niche, right? I've recently spoken to a luxury brand, to like some type of like luxury high-end brand, and they actually do not solve massive problems, right? It's like almost like furniture. So how can you do it like that? Well, you could do a million different things. You could be like with a super professional ASMR style, like high-end class media production. Maybe with that you interrupt their pattern. Maybe you have like a fireplace and you can hear it super loud. That's what I was saying with ASMR almost. Maybe you start with that and then you have like a huge transition into the furniture or whatever you do. It should feel very luxury and professional. That itself is a pattern interrupt, and you can do this, and this is the key part of it a lot of times within your ad. Okay, so let's say as an example, you have a 30-second long ad, or let's say a minute. Okay, let's say you have a minute long ad. After 20 seconds, a lot of people already have left. Either they clicked or they just scrolled, most of them, right? So after 20 seconds, it actually makes sense if you want to nurture them to hook them again, to do something weird one more time. And then you do this 3 different times throughout the time span of your ad. And then you have this pattern interrupt, right? You have this consistent flow of, weird stuff happening. If you look at any super viral video on Instagram Reels, for example, right? What do they all have in common? Something completely weird, right? Something where, which you wouldn't have expected otherwise, which no one dares to say, or some completely crazy news, or something which is just not like everything else. You just have to be different because first impressions matter. First impressions last, right? So pattern interrupts are probably the most powerful mechanism you can actually include to just increase the performance of this. Now, the third thing is actually the topic of disqualifiers, because believe it or not, if you do these 2 things right, if you do get a bunch of people into your top of funnel, it's going to be super easy, right? A million times easier than you think is getting low CPCs. Getting a low CPCs is not a hard job to do. If you just iterate it, if you have a pretty short ad or an image ad, if you have a attention grabbing headline or hook, right, and you do all these steps right, then it's going to be very, very easy for you to get very low CPCs. However, the hard part with paid ads, right, is actually converting that attention that you grab, right? If you struggle with CPCs, then you're just like, you have completely different problems, right? And I would recommend you work a lot in this stage, probably also CPM issues oftentimes, but that's a different topic. The point is, the topic of disqualifiers here means that you basically disqualify a bunch of people that watch your ad on purpose, so that the ones that don't get disqualified get actually nurtured a lot more and they convert better. So how exactly does this work, right? I'll give you an example. So let's say you have an ad which says, hey, are you trying to lose 40 pounds? Okay, it's going to speak to every person on earth that's trying to lose 40 pounds. If you start your ad with, hey, mom's over 45, are you trying to lose over 40 pounds, right? That means that, this ad is now only going to appeal to moms over 45 that also want to lose, lose the 45 pounds. And so what this is going to do, it's going to reduce your total addressable market. It's going to niche down. You're probably also going to get lower CPMs, which is a different topic. However, and this is the most powerful part, Everyone who's not a mom over 45 is just going to keep scrolling. It's going to reduce the hook rate. It's going to make your CPCs more expensive because there's going to be fewer people, obviously, that click through. However, that's not the type of people that we focus on. The types of people that we focus on then are the ones who we actually call out. So the moms over 45 in this case, right? And every mom over 45 is going to think, oh my God, this ad is made for me. And even though the CPCs get more expensive because the CTRs go down, the conversion rate of that ad goes up massively, right? So every ad converts differently. Your conversion rate is really not that dependent on your offer as you think it is. It really is, a lot of it is your ads, okay? So what I want you to do from now on is play around with these disqualifiers to manipulate the data that you buy. And I'll give you another example for this, right? So let's say you have too high conversion rates, right? And you have basically a pretty high CPC because of that. And you can scale, even though your conversion rate is really high, but your CPC is too high. You can't really scale because of your high CPC. So how do you fix that? Well, you look at your entire ad and ask yourself, how can I remove disqualifiers? Okay. So basically an example for this, right, would be, let's say you do have a call out like the moms over 45. Get rid of that. Get rid of the call out. Maybe you drop the price or the offer at the end of the ad. Get rid of that. Prices are a big disqualifier. Maybe you talk about, the problem or storytelling for hours and hours. Get rid of that. Make it shorter, right? If you make your ad shorter, more people will see the CTA, more people will click, and you basically cut out every part that people could not resonate with potentially, right? And you do that, and there's a million different disqualifiers. Testimonials are a disqualifier. Stretched future benefits are a disqualifier. Objection handling is disqualification. We have call-outs, price drops, offer drops, risk reversals, guarantees, right? We have all these different disqualifiers in your ads that you can manipulate and add in like you want them. So this is the cool part. You can play around with these to manipulate your data. And this is the point of what I'm trying to make here in this video, is that it's not just a hit or miss. You don't just rip content, upload it, and then hopefully it works. That's not how it works whatsoever. That's not how it works at all. What you actually have to do, how this actually works, right? How paid ads actually work is you test and then you lose money, right? And then you look at what worked the best from that test, even if everything's unprofitable, and then you go deeper into that and then you do a retest. Probably a little bit better than last time, but still nothing's profitable. Cool. You look at the best of that and then go deeper and deeper and deeper. This is called an iteration, right? Iterative approach. And so what this is basically is you just manipulate your data that you buy on Facebook or whatever with these disqualifiers. You can remove these, you can add these like ever you want to manipulate your data, right? And the best ad, the perfect ad is not the best CPC, lowest CPC, or the highest conversion rate. It's the best combination or balance between conversion rate and cost per click, okay? This is what I want you guys to remember. It's very, very important to keep this in mind. And why, once again, why is this so important? Well, because disqualifiers happen all the time in your ad. Everything that makes your ad longer is a disqualifier. Everything that makes your ad shorter, right, is not is going to reduce conversion rate, right? So both of these are completely valid things that you can do, and you just have to look at your data in order to be able to properly manipulate this data. Okay, so this is really important to not just, like a lot of people tell you, total bullshit. Like a lot of people tell you to just, run a CBO with 5 creatives. If it's not profitable, then move on to a different product. Like, what is that? That's not a business, just luck. Okay. And you don't want to rely on luck. So last but not least, what I want to tell you in this video is the volume and the outsourcing. And so as you know, and that's very natural, volume should be extremely high as the hit rates are just super low. Even if you do a hook test, even if you do everything right, volume should be extremely high because hit rates will be very low naturally. It's just how paid ads really work. And every single time that I've done more than I got recommended with, it just worked better. I just always brute forced it. So if I tell you guys now you should test 20 ads a week, you should actually test 50. Okay, so you should be ready to invest into paid ads, right? Obviously, because there comes this turning point of, okay, now it's break even, and then now it's profitable, and then you do it again and again and again, and iterate, keep iterating, and until it's like a 10 ROAS, and then when you have a 10 ROAS, then you scale, and then it breaks again, and then you iterate, and then you scale again. This is how paid ads essentially work. You just make your ads better and better. And in order to properly do that with a decent speed, your volume, your creative testing volume has to be extremely high, okay? This is the key part of this, right? And obviously, as the founder of a brand, as the founder of an e-commerce business, not a dropshipping store, and a founder of an e-commerce business, you're going to rely on not doing everything yourself, because at a decent scale, at a certain scale, what's going to happen to you, and this is the key part, right? This is the key part of this. If you do this for a long enough period of time, you're not going to be able to do this anymore on your own. So you need people, right? You need people, and I'm not a fan of agencies, creative agencies. Why? Because you depend on them. Long term, you want to basically build a enterprise value, a company value. You want to sell your business at some point, believe it or not, right? Even if you've been watching the how to make 10K a month dropshipping videos, you want to build this, turn this into a solid business, and you're gonna need people for that. You're going to need employees to do that, because if you're the only person in your business, let's forget the agency. If you're the only person in your business, the business is worth nothing, because the second that you sell it, it's not going to keep generating consistent new customer flow and people stop buying and whatnot. So disaster, okay? If you have an in-house team, it's a completely different story. Now, the reason why I specifically recommend not to go to agencies, to creative agencies, to media buying agencies, to editing agencies, right? Whatever it is, it's not going to increase, but actually massively decrease the value of your business, because agencies, as you guys know, don't have very long deal spans with brands or with people overall. It's a lot of churn in agencies, right? So how do you fix this? Well, you basically build an in-house team. And how do you build an in-house team? You have a separate funnel for your talent acquisition. Okay, so what that means is you have your new customer acquisition funnel, and then you have a separate funnel, which is your talent acquisition. It could be a network, it could be a Discord, it could be, for example, I'm doing a personal brand, right? I met so many great people through this. So think about it this way: just have some funnel. It could be paid ads for your employees, of course. Why not, right? Could be just cold outreach in Facebook groups or Discord servers or LinkedIn or like Indeed, right? And job post platforms. You have a funnel specifically for talent acquisition in your business. And so the first things that you're going to want to outsource are creative strategy, video editing, obviously, and graphic design, and media buying, right? This is the whole creative approach. And the communication between the three should be insanely big, okay? Insanely important that they're doing it right. So if you also hire, and this is potential, if your team is growing, a head of creatives or CMO, like a chief marketing officer, or however you want to call it, this is what you hire then afterwards. All right. So this was pretty much it, guys. I want to say thank you so much for giving me your most important asset, which is your attention, right? Thank you so much, right? Thank you for watching, guys. See you next time. I wish you a beautiful day.